So my name is Casey and I read Medical Bondage by Cooper Owens.
My name is Vicky. I read Heavy by Keith Lehman.
My name is Juan and I also read Medical Bondage.
My name's Kat and I read Heavy also.
My name is Liz and I read Heavy too.
My name is Megan and I also read Heavy. So what was Medical Bondage about?
It was about the start of medicine.
Yeah, it was about the history of medicine and how slavery played a big role in advancing discoveries of gynecology.
Was it just based in America?
Yeah, most of it is rooted in America.
Hey, what time frame was this around?
But
I don't remember.
yeah, I don't either.
Probably like 1800s.
Yeah.
1800s.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like early, yes.
Yeah. Did you guys like the book?
It was interesting, but it was too sad.
Yeah, there was some really graphic scenes, but I think it was really informative.
Would you recommend it to anyone else?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I would too, just to get some insight into like the history of medicine and how I guess slavery was able to really provide advancement through experimentation of like slaves and immigrant women, so that white women they could advance discoveries, so they could implement onto white women. So what was your guys' book about?
Ours was about, so the author has written about the book, Keith Lehman, and it was about his life growing up, especially being from South.
Mm-hmm.
He was from the South. He was a young black boy, and it talks about his life and the way he was brought up.
I think it's kind of like he's speaking to his mom throughout it. I personally didn't really like the book. I thought I don't know if you guys have ever read Between the World and Me, but I thought it was kind of like a cheap knockoff because Coates is writing a letter to his son about what it means to grow up as an African American in America, and I just thought that's what Lehman was doing, but it was a lot more graphic and raunchy.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it wasn't an easy book to read just because I've never read something so graphic before. If anything, the only graphic one I read was like The Color Purple back in high school. And so when I started reading the book, it's basically his whole life in it, and he's very real, and he talks about everything and anything. There is no boundaries with it. Maybe if I get another chance to read it, I would like it the second time around, but for now, I'm kind of on the fence about it.
I don't know. For me, I like the book, but I didn't like how it was basically like a cheap knockoff of Between the World and Me. But I like the way he talked about just everything and how he felt and stuff. But I didn't really like how he talked about a lot of graphic stuff that happened to him because I didn't really think it was that necessary.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough book to get through, especially in the beginning. Once you got towards the end, it was a little easier to read.
So what does it tell us? How does it connect to medicine?
I think it definitely touches on the social determinants of health, his income, his mom being a single mom,
Mm-hmm.
and her being a professor, so she wasn't having this huge income for them. Also his education, because he was kicked out of college for stealing a book, and other things like the way he could engage with his community and the safety in his community.
So in our book, it really talks about the inequality between races, and so basically the issue is that slaves and immigrant women were seen as inferior. So when they did experiments on them, they did it in order to advance white women's health, but not really caring about the individual. So one of the issues that I also saw that it talked about is that they thought that black women didn't experience the same level of pain, or they were more tolerant to pain than white women. So I think that just highlights one of the issues that Americans really, believed and how they, well, they really like oppressed black women and immigrants because they were seen as inferior. So they used that in order to experiment on them, I guess, to justify it.
So like they gained good knowledge about medicine,
Yeah.
but they did it in a very unethical way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
They did it so that the black woman would be able to produce more children,
Yeah.
and so that they wouldn't get sick.
Yeah, and we also saw that the value of women was based upon if they were able to reproduce or not. So if a black slave or a female slave wasn't able to reproduce, they were basically deemed like unworthy, you know, and they were oftentimes sold off. So yeah. Does anyone else have information to provide about?
I think our book kind of touched on like the differences between that you see between the God, I'm trying to say between the two different like ethnic communities because his high school did shut down, and so he did have to go to a all white Catholic high school. So you do see like the problems that they had during that transition because there was only a handful of black students in this school. So he definitely did face some like obstacles from this, especially like with the teachers. So I think that's kind of like how our books maybe relate a little bit.
And also like pointing that back to health, like the book's called Heavy, and like I think it refers to the heaviness of the book, all the different topics they talk about, but also his weight, just something he dealt with. And he said like he used food as an outlet, and probably because like he was in a very like stressful situation, like being the outcast, being someone like in his white school that they looked down upon and bullied. That was a big part of it too.
Yeah, the book really focuses on like racism in America, and then also how we're not like kind of obsessed with like weight obsessed culture, because like throughout the book he starts as like this big kid, and then like throughout the book there's a couple of chapters in the book where he like lists his weight down and the numbers just keep dropping. And then like also racism with how he was in a relationship with a white girl, and then he got like a beating of that from his mother when she found out. And it, yeah.
Talking about racism, like there was a part in the book where the grandma was like helping a white family like do chores and stuff, like washing their clothes, drying it, and how one of the boys from that family, he was a young white boy. Remember when he asked Keith if he wanted to like shoot squirrels and stuff, and he was like, "Oh no, thank you." And then how he was like, "Oh, why don't you want to shoot squirrels? Like you guys have been shooting up Jackson."
I think along with like everything, like him facing his obviously like a fluctuation in his weight, because there's times like towards the end of the book where he got his weight dropped super bad, and he actually became like anorexic and like and he would pass out, and then also battling the discrimination against him for being black, directing that towards health, it like had a detrimental mental health impact on him.
Yeah, so adding on to this discussion, so one of the things that I also saw within medical bondage is how, well, slaves were obviously like seen, not really considered as, they were seen more as experiments or experimental objects than human beings. And I think that also one of like the really, like one of the, how I was talking about one of the incidents in which a slave was being purchased, and she actually had to kill her child in order for her to be purchased. So she would like eat it to death. And I think that it provides like some insight into like the realities that especially immigrants and African women were facing during that time, and how they had to deal with that, and also like they were still being used as objects in order to advance like the study of gynecology. So I think that's, I don't know, it's like shows really the severity during that time.
And we like see the severe racism that happens
Yeah.
in the 1800s,
Yeah.
and we see it again in what 1950 or something.
Yeah, it's like 1950s, 1960s.
And I think
Yeah.
that definitely relates to also what we've learned, how, you know, sometimes there's prejudice that still exists within medicine. So I think these are good ways we can really be able to identify these issues and
And we need
try
to be aware of them.
Yeah,
so
be aware of them.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like how we were talking about in class, there's also a lot more complications like with Black women having children now, and so like that's like we see that both in the 1800s and also now. So it's interesting how like some of these things carry on through history.
Yeah.
And to add on about the racism, it talked about women being raped by their owners, and they couldn't do anything about it, and they even went to court, but she lost the court.
Yeah, she lost.
Yeah, we definitely saw a lot of rape in this book. Layman was he had been sexually abused by several people, like his mother, babysitter. He had seen a friend of his sexually abused. So that definitely also had like a significant impact on his mental health and how he saw himself, and just overall like how he felt about certain situations.
Yeah, so I think these books were really interesting. They provided us a lot of insight, I guess, into, you know, the careers that we may be pursuing and how this study of the history of, you know, racism in America and all that can be applied to.
I think like yours was definitely more focused on actual
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah.
While this one, we kind of had to find ways to relate it back to medicine, like through weight, through mental health. So I think it'd be really cool, like personally, to read Medical Bondage and kind of compare and contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also kind of like relates back to when you're talking about like narrative medicine. So you have to look like beyond just the symptoms of the patient and beyond just like what the charts say, and look at their narrative and see if that can help you come to a diagnosis and a conclusion. So I think that these books work really well together in that sense.
Any final thoughts?
I actually enjoyed my book.
That's good.
I thought it was really interesting.
I mean, I think like heavy overall, like it definitely had interesting parts, and then for me, like the mental health aspect of like him and his like relationship with his mother was really interesting. But I think he was way too graphic at times that it like wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And like definitely like there's
So
some
it's
heavy
all
things in life that should be talked about, different kinds of abuse. But other parts of his book, I didn't think he needed to bring up.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he also experienced like not just sexual abuse, but also like he was like addicted to like going to the casino and like spending all his money. So it was like another way that society like played a role in how he acted in his mental health.
Yeah, I think just adding one more thing is from Medical Bondage, one thing that actually like I thought was, they made a really good point is how slaves were used as experiments in order to like help make discoveries about the health of like white women, but it talks about how they're seen as different, yet they still think that they're biologically the same, like they're, you know, the way in which they're used. So I thought that was like a really interesting like point, because why would you use someone that you view as inferior in order to like make discoveries about, you know,
That's a really
white
interesting
women?
point.
So
Yeah,
I thought
it's
that
like
was-
saying they're the same, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like they're different.
Yeah, and I think it just shows how much like progress was necessary to be made in order to like really transform that unethical practice that was taking course during that time. Yeah. So
Well, this was a nice discussion about our books.
yeah.
I definitely got some useful insight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you guys too.
Okay, thank you so much.